Awesome. Thank you. By now you know my name is Charlie. This is my first time at NolaCon. I'm having a great time so far. A special shout out to all of y'all that think you're at the ransomware talk but are too polite to leave. I don't actually have any films for you today. This title is stolen from a classic episode of The Simpsons that featured a bunch of loosely related short stories. And that's what I have for you tonight, is sort of a meta talk about my experiences as a speaker and all the rejected ideas I haven't had a chance to present before. So some of these ideas have been rejected by CFP review boards. Others were rejected by me. But rejection is something that happens to everyone, and it's nothing to stress about. If you need convincing, check out this excellent blog post by Jake Williams. All right, I've been going to hacker conferences for more than 10 years, and my favorite part of the conference experience is hearing other people's summaries of what they've seen. I'm not picky. I like to hear everybody's conference cliff notes. But it's especially awesome when a friend condenses a day's worth of presentations and bar conversations into the few minutes of stuff that I really wanted to hear. I feel like that's the closest I'm going to get to that Matrix I Know Kung Fu sensation. So I'm super excited tonight to be delivering a bunch of talks in TLDR form. My wife is a web designer, and a few years ago, I was helping her move stuff to a new server. She'd been pretty diligent about patching her old LAMP server, but was running several web applications that were installed outside of the OS package manager and weren't getting updated. Luckily for her, none of these vulnerable vhosts were still in DNS. These were all domains she had previously moved or let expire. The web applications were still exploitable. They just weren't easy to enumerate. So I started to take a look at how to identify these orphaned vhosts at a large scale. This tool from Cyberus does Dirbuster-style brute forcing of vhosts. This tool from Portcullis takes a different approach, looking at the server cert for subject alternative names and searching the server IP against several websites, including Bing. But neither of these tools are particularly well suited for large-scale scanning. I think a robust solution will be based on historical DNS data, but understandably, the free options for this are limited. I think the best of the lot is probably dnstrails.com, but even they suggest that you contact them before doing bulk lookups. I thought about this problem for a while, but then ultimately just sort of lost interest before building a tool. So it's sort of anticlimactic, but that's the 2-minute summary. So check out these links if you're interested in these sort of configuration issues. These slides are on my website. You'll see the link at the end of the presentation. So on to the next talk. In 2014, I gave a talk with my friend Mike Larson about Tor traffic analysis. The TLDR here was that the Tor protocol is similar enough to HTTPS that some simple JavaScript can generate traffic that'll fool the rules of IDS and IPS sensors that are trying to identify Tor traffic. So later that summer after this talk, I was still running a bunch of Tor nodes when I saw this tweet. So cool, this is the same problem that we were just talking about, where the web server's vhost configuration is acting as sort of an accidental security layer. But if people really are exposing hidden services to the internet this way, there's an even simpler test we can try. We could just enumerate SSH hidden services, collect the public key fingerprints, and then scan the internet for them. So I thought that'd be a cool project, something that I could do. And then John Matherly blows up my spot and puts all of that DNS fingerprint information in Shodan. So he did all the hard work. All I could do was tweet the idea and move on to something else. If you're skeptical that Dan's approach would have worked, in 2015, the Cthulhu found that there really are web servers set up this way, as shown here via Apache mod status. And if you're interested in this sort of research, definitely check out Sarah Jamie Lewis's awesome Onion Scan project. My favorite Tor story of 2016 was this, the cert pinning bug in Firefox in the Tor browser. This was initially discovered by the Tor fork guy, but it was just sort of dismissed as him being an angry jerk. Ryan Duff really saved the day here and found the root and identified the root cause and got the bug killed. So I've been that guy. Has anybody else here been that guy? Been the angry jerk? Please don't be that person. For most of us in our careers, our ability to build rapport and persuade people will be just as important as our technical skills. We're just keeping going. All right. For a long time, I've wanted to give a talk on security career advice. There's just one problem. I'm not very successful. I wouldn't listen to me, but who I would listen to is 2 Chainz. I love hip hop, and 2 Chainz is super successful, so let's see what he has to say. If you have a job and your last paycheck didn't bounce, your organization has lived to fight another day. Cynicism is part of the hacker mindset, but pessimism doesn't need to be. Things are getting better on lots of security fronts. Keeping up to date is a challenge we all share. For years, I followed a ton of security people on Twitter and followed more than 1,000 blogs and listened to 6 to 8 hours a week of security podcasts when I'm not listening to Hip Hop Nation. And the vast majority of useful stuff I've learned through these channels, I've also seen come through RNetSec. So props to these folks. This is a great resource. As one of those mods tweeted, even the CIA reads RNetSec. This was from the Vault 7 leak. It's a link to a NetSec discussion about UAC bypass on greyhathacker.net. In a few months, some of you may be at the Black Hat Business Hall hearing all the latest product pitches. This year promised to be just like last year, except machine learning has been added to everything. Okay, so this doesn't sound too bad. Everybody's sim does some stats, the most frequently seen, the least frequently seen, but what else can we do? Counting seems like a good place to start. I'm going to show a couple examples with Splunk, but you should be able to do this with any modern sim. This is a simple indicator from Chris Gates' excellent Purple Team talk. A random 16-character workstation name from Metasploit's SMB client. So here's that search. These next 2 searches require this app, this Splunk app. We can calculate entropy to find randomish data. Here, looking at domain names. Or we can calculate Levenshtein distance to find similar strings. Here, looking for domains similar to google.com. Or we can calculate the average time between connections to identify beaconing. But statistical analysis is going to identify anomalies and not incidents. I have high hopes for machine learning solutions, but most organizations aren't going to find value in investigating every statistical anomaly. Security architectures and control frameworks are great resources to identify where you are and where you want to go. But unfortunately, it seems like all the options from the NIST cybersecurity framework to 20 critical security controls require big bucks to implement. Years ago, Wendy Nather had advocated for building similar resources for people living below the security poverty line. And as far as I can tell, the person making the most progress on this front is Taylor Swift. Taylor's website features security information written for IT professionals, and the security community definitely needs more outreach like this. So I'm not suggesting, just to clarify, I'm not suggesting that you're going to solve the world's security problems with a blog post, but I am suggesting that more than just the hacker community can benefit from your expertise. In 2011, I gave this Choose Your Own Adventure style talk at B-Sides Las Vegas and HackerCon. I don't know if you can tell from this GIF, but that's Dave Kennedy. He seems like a really nice guy, but if you look closely, he's stealing my wallet. The TLDR there was that I didn't think most companies were mature enough for penetration testing. And now, more than 5 years later, I still feel the same way. And props to Adrian for recording this. He's a real asset to our community. He's been doing this for years, and it's amazing that these videos are out there. He's probably sitting right over there, so clap a little bit louder so he can hear you on the other side of the wall. Thanks, Adrian. Thank you. So the dirty secret of the penetration testing business is that a lot of the lessons learned from these penetration tests are essentially the same, and you don't need to pay for a test to learn them. For example, there's this report from Praetorian Labs and this other one from Rapid7. And the primary lesson that most organizations haven't learned is about protecting credentials. So this guidance from Microsoft is pretty simple. They suggest you just organize your system administration activities in a way that your admin creds aren't unnecessarily exposed. So this isn't technically difficult or expensive to implement, but does require changes in system administration behavior. An organization should at least invest some resources in protecting credentials before paying for a pen test. A word of warning, if you're a network person looking at this picture, you may think that this is about network segmentation. But it's actually not. It's about how and where admin credentials are used on your network. So if you're not familiar with these sort of escalation paths, definitely check out Bloodhound. It was an open source tool released at last year's DEF CON and was updated just this week. But even if you choose to adopt this tiered administration model, you're probably going to fuck it up. And here are some of the ways, here are some of the problems that you're likely to encounter. Starting with essentially anyone that has read access to the ntds.diff file on a domain controller is a de facto domain admin. And if you run virtualized domain controllers, this may include the people that manage the virtualization or shared storage layers. So those users need to be treated as tier 0 users. And if you've delegated group policy management to members of the group policy creators owners group, and then link their GPOs to tier 0 assets, then they also need to be treated as tier 0 users. Here's another layer of delegation to keep an eye on. This script will show you things like who can reset the passwords on your critical accounts. And this is part of the functionality that was just added to Bloodhound 1.3. This tool doesn't get enough love. Michael Grafenetter's DS Internals PowerShell module will parse your ntds.dit and can show you things like which accounts share the same password. So this is valuable because if you have admins with accounts at multiple tiers, any security benefit of having separate accounts is lost if they share the same password. If you require smart cards for logon, you might not think that the password issues apply to you, but users can still change their password, and the hash never expires. So to work around this, you can toggle smart card logon required off then on, and you'll have to rely on this workaround until both the domain and force functional level are updated to server 2016. Yeah, that might be a while in some places. Another thing you may want to look at, that you want to take a close look at, is all of the agents running on your tier 0 assets, including your endpoint security software. But a good place to start is with the patch management client. The role-based access in each of these tools needs to match the tiered administration model for it to be effective. All right, so I still believe in the value of pen testing. I just don't think it's for everybody. I'd like to hear your ideas about getting the most value out of a test. Feel free to yell them out, or I'll be around for the rest of the weekend. Come chat. In conclusion, keep doing your thing, submit to the next CFPUC, and don't worry about getting rejected. I can't wait to see your talk. That was it. Thank you.